Let's go! All for One is finally here, and it is about to go down! The hypeness of this episode of My Hero Academia. Schlip, slop, boobity and bop, I cannot contain my excitement for this episode right here, which was essentially a glorified build-up to the reveal of All for One. He has got to be the most anticipated villain of the entire series. The way that All Might has been building him up. The fact that apparently he has the ability to steal other people's quirks. The fact that he can cause explosions just by flexing his muscles. Basically what I'm trying to say is this episode was freaking incredible. And all of the stuff for All for One wasn't even revealed until the end of the episode. This entire episode right here was all about the heroes infiltrating the League of Villains' secret hideout, absolutely destroying it, and kicking all sorts of ass. Pretty much every single character got to do something awesome in this episode, and it was just satisfying as hell. One of my favorite things about My Hero Academia is how it doesn't waste any time, and this episode right here was sort of like the perfect example of that. We just wrapped up a major arc of the series, and typically in any other anime, especially one that's based on a long-running manga series, there'd be a little bit of time to decompress and gather your feelings. But no, My Hero Academia says, screw that shit, let's jump in and just go right into the action. I absolutely love the strategy that the heroes actually came up with, where we have Aizawa, Vlad, and Nezu, the principal of UA High School, doing this big press conference with the media, telling them that they do plan to tighten things up in terms of security and looking out for the well-being of the students. Even Aizawa, who looks like he's about to completely lose his shit like a living volcano, actually takes responsibility for everything that Bakugo has done, including his personality and even him getting captured by the villains. And the League of Villains doesn't realize that this is actually just a big distraction. The heroes are right outside their door, and they bust in with a lot of gusto. Izuku and all of his friends are actually at a completely separate hideout, and they're desperately not trying to get caught or in trouble, and they actually do discover, thanks to some very useful night vision goggles, that the place that they're at is actually sort of a breeding ground for the Nomu creatures. I especially love the way the heroes begin their attack on the villains. We have the main hideout with Tomura Shigaraki and his other group of goons, and the SWAT team and all of the heroes come to the door and they act like they're pizza men, only for All Might to just completely smash the wall, destroying everything. Kamui Woods comes in and wraps up everyone with his tendrils, and then frickin' Gran Torino just comes in, kicking the shit out of everyone, including Dabi, and just looking generally awesome all at the same time. Endeavor is gonna stay outside with the cops, which is kind of disappointing because I want to see more of Endeavor, and they might have officially confirmed it in this episode that All Might is American. That's what Endeavor's actually complaining about. He's like, why'd you let that American go in before I could take care of them? So, yeah, it kind of makes sense considering that his entire shtick is that he's sort of an homage to everything that is American superheroes, so USA! The other side of town, at the other hideout, we get to see the other group of heroes have actually started attacking that base, much to the shock of Izuku and his friends. I especially love how it actually happens when you suddenly see this massive truck, which is being lifted up in the air, and it's actually Mount Lady, who is quite literally wearing it like a slipper. She then slams it down on top of the base, destroying everything. You have Gang Orca, you have Blue Genist, and you have Tiger go in. They start taking down all of the Nomus, destroying them, capturing them, and Tiger even manages to find Ragdoll, who's completely unconscious, but apparently just okay. I'm really curious as to see what they were actually planning to do with Ragdoll in the first place, if they were going to experiment on her and maybe try to transform her into a Nomu, although by the end of the episode it's made very clear what they were actually doing with her, and that's when we finally get the full introduction of All for One. But it's the build-up to All for One that truly works here, as it really does look like the heroes are actually going to win. They have all of the villains captured. Kurogiri has been completely knocked out thanks to the abilities of Edgeshot the Ninja, who might have some of the coolest abilities that I've seen from any hero possible. Basically, he has the ability to fold himself continuously. He's kind of like a origami man. He can completely just like bend and twist and fold his body into a number of different shapes to slip through doorways, and even transform his body into thread to actually like go through people's bodies and cause them to get knocked out. That's what he does to Kurogiri, and the way that he's animated and his overall ninja-like presence, I didn't expect it to be as cool as it was. It was great. So Kurogiri isn't going to be able to warp people away. The Nomus aren't going to be able to attack when suddenly these weird, gooey-ass black portals just start coming out from all different directions, and these Nomus just start coming out of nowhere. It makes no sense why this is going down, and one of them actually manages to grab onto Katsuki Bakugo and escapes with him. Apparently this ability that's going on right here is thanks to All for One, who makes his appearance at the end of the episode at the other side of town where they're actually breeding the Nomus. He claims that he actually had to harvest Ragdoll's ability and then proceeds to make everyone look completely foolish by causing a massive explosion. Blue Genius tries to capture him and maybe even potentially tries to take him out right there, but it means nothing when this dude just flexes and there's just this massive explosion destroying everything in their wake. The mere presence of All for One causes the students to have visions of their very own deaths. And All for One, it is implied at this point, has multiple abilities, as not only is he super strong, but he apparently has the ability to fly or float or levitate in some form or fashion. Make sure to stay tuned for the post-credit scene at the end of this episode. You get a much better glimpse of this character who has a very wicked-looking mask. If you want a better look at that and you want to be spoiled, check out the preview. In some senses, I wish I hadn't have looked at the preview, because now I know exactly what he's going to look like, and wow, does he just look awesome. So what's the rundown on this episode of My Hero Academia? Man, the hype is just so frigging real in this show. I didn't expect them to jump into this arc so quickly and immediately get right into the action, but I really appreciate it. It's always been the benefit of being able to divide the story arcs of My Hero Academia into individual anime seasons. I really do believe it helps the pacing, which is absolutely perfect in this season in my opinion. It also helps the budget as well. There's just a lot of really great imagery in this episode right here, and the display of the heroes using their power is great. I think my favorite scene, though, has to be with All Might and their team busting into Tomoe Shigaraki's place. It was just so intensely satisfying to see all of them get one-upped after that big major confrontation. All Might in particular is just so pissed off during this event, and when Bakugo gets caught, oh my gosh, he just lets out this scream of such intensity, and he realizes that this is all leading up to All for One revealing himself, and both him and Gran Torino understand the stakes of this more than anyone. You can tell that it's really weighing down hard on them. I was hoping that we'd get to see a little bit more from the main characters themselves, the younger heroes in this episode, but it's pretty clear from the events that are going on right now that they're dealing with something which is completely out of their league. The fact that they can't even like look at All for One without getting visions of their death just explains how intensely powerful and evil this character is right here. Also, I just have to give credit to the fact that the cops in this series are absolutely awesome, the way that they work with the heroes. Sakauchi and his team did a lot of investigation to actually find out the true identities of every single villain here, and I thought that that was also really freaking impressive on their part. Really, every single character in this episode was just cool, to say the least. I especially loved Ed Shot in this episode. He left such an impression with the way that they actually demonstrated his abilities. You only learn about them for a second, but man, it's almost infinite what he could potentially do with his body, the way he can twist, bend, contort, and fold it. It's just awesome, and I hopefully will get to see more of him in action in a more traditional fight. Although, seeing as his abilities and seeing how they work, he definitely seems like someone who works better as sort of like a backup who works in the shadows. And it makes perfect sense, because the dude is a freaking ninja. Speaking of ninjas, Kamui Woods, the Wood Ninja himself. I'm glad that they brought him back, because he's just so freaking cool looking. I've always loved his design, and to see him actually help out and work together with All Might is really satisfying. It pretty much clearly shows that freaking Kamui Woods and Mount Lady have truly worked their way up in the ranks of being like the best heroes possible. Blue Genius was also really fantastic in this episode, also having a goofy design, which I still don't see as badass, but man, that moment where he started to attack All for One at the end, just that was so satisfying right there. I was hoping we get to see more of Gang Orca and what he does, because he's just so weird looking. You know, apparently he's half man, half whale, so I'm expecting to see some abilities like that. I don't know, is he going to blowhole people to death? It's just weird. I just want to see more of that. But man, this episode right here is just fully going to be defined by that final moment with All for One just appearing. It's awesome, it's spine-tingling inducing, and it's great. I also especially love Katsuki Bakugo in this arc right here. I was so terrified of him becoming a villain in the series and just becoming the Sasuke/Vegeta of the series. I didn't want that to go down, and despite his incredibly explosive personality, he still manages to stay a hero, and I love that. Even at the last second with almost like no way to get out, he still's just gonna plan to try and blow up everyone and make a quick run for the door. Luckily, that's when the pizza man arrived. What more can I say? This was an awesome episode of My Hero Academia, which is absolutely building up the hype. I can't wait to see the next episode, as the intro of the show indicates that we're going to see a battle between All Might and All for One, and frankly, I think it's going to be just amazing. This arc right here has been fantastic, and this entire season thus far has been perfect, in my opinion. I'm giving this episode right here a 5 out of 5. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this one. You can tell me all of them in the comments section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of My Hero Academia. If you guys want to have a discussion with me about the episode, I'd love to do that. I'm always down for a good conversation, especially because this episode right here was just hype. I loved it. Love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys for watching this review. I will see you guys next time, and as always, stay down, baby.